Conversations across time, 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 across time.
Here are some of the thoughts from some of the others we talked to just a few minutes ago.
Has to happen.
I hope change happens, and I hope we don't keep regressing as we have been doing. Listen to what the people need and what the people want, because they're currently not representing the people.
The struggles are interconnected. We know that there has been a bit of a backslide as of recently when it comes to rights for multiple groups of people, but particularly today with women, there is no reason why women should not have the right to be able to do what they need to with their bodies and not have to explain it to somebody else.
We're going back to a time that's half a century ago, and we shouldn't be looking back, we should be looking forward.
Most Supreme Court decisions are granular, little noticed interpretations of the law and Constitution, but a few are landmarks. Roe v. Wade was a landmark. It effectively legalized abortion across the United States. Here are the facts and players in the case. Jane Roe was actually Norma McCorvey. She was a Texan in her early 20s who wanted to terminate an unwanted pregnancy in 1969. Abortion was legal in Texas at the time, but only for the purpose of saving a woman's life. That was not the issue for McCorvey. Her life was not at risk. She tried unsuccessfully to get an illegal abortion and was referred to 2 attorneys interested in challenging anti-abortion laws. The Wade in Roe v. Wade was Henry Wade, the district attorney of Dallas County, who enforced that Texas abortion law. McCorvey soon filed a case against him. The Supreme Court agreed in 1971 to hear the case, and on January 22, 1973, struck down the Texas law in a 7-2 decision. Justice Harry Blackmun wrote for the majority opinion and declared a woman's right to privacy under the 14th Amendment superseded a state's right to ban abortion. The court set different rules for each trimester. In the first trimester, the choice to end pregnancy was entirely up to the mother. In the second trimester, the government could regulate but not ban abortion in order to protect the mother's health. In the third trimester, the state could prohibit abortion to protect a fetus that could survive outside the womb, except when the mother's health is in danger. Justices Byron White and William Rehnquist dissented. They basically held the argument of privacy went far beyond the intentions of the constitutional framers, an argument that could signal the grounds for challenges to Roe. The 2 justices also stated the court's decision did not stick to the specific facts of this case because Roe was not in her first trimester at the time of the litigation.
Going to heaven and you're not.
A group that has dominated.
I went to heaven and you didn't.
And we have to maintain our dominance. And all these so-called minority groups are taking over, and we have to protect ourselves. And they're going to oppress us.
For someone that believes in the Constitution, and now you do all we have these minority groups, and we have to protect ourselves. I mean, I really don't know where you're going with this. I mean, even if you're an originalist, you do believe in certain fundamental rights. Do you believe in the right to worship as you please? Do you believe in the First Amendment? Do you believe in freedom of speech? I don't know what you believe in because you talk about the right of white males and nobody else has rights. I don't understand it.
Because that's what the authors of the Constitution wrote down.
They didn't write it down. I just said that the 10th Amendment doesn't say, and the men therein. It says the people therein. It doesn't say the men therein. You said, oh, you don't know the 10th Amendment, Justice Blackmun. I said, I know it better than you when I quoted it to you. And it says the people therein. It doesn't say the men therein. Then you say, well, it was understood the men. And then when you don't want it, when it's not there, you say, well, they never believed in that because they didn't put it in. You can't have it both ways. Either you're an originalist or you're not. You can't say I'm an originalist when it fits me, and there's no word abortion in the Constitution, therefore there can't be an abortion. But when it doesn't say men, you say, well, it was understood they were all men and they dominated the culture. You can't do it that way.
Why not?
Because it's not what us justices are supposed to do. That's why not. We're not supposed to bring our own prejudice, our own upbringing, our own religious biases to the court decisions. We're supposed to rule on what the Constitution say and not make up stuff. And I cleaned that up.
Justice Blackmun, I'll admit that what I'm trying to do is try to restore some order in the country by...
That's not the role of the court. That's the role of the executive and the legislative branch. Our rule is the rule on the Constitution, the rights in the Constitution. If people have a right to free speech and you don't like the demonstration, you can't say, I'm going to do away with free speech. You can't do that. That's in there for a reason. And that's why I pointed out to you before about what would you say about the Sons of Liberty? What would you say about the Boston Tea Party? You skew history to fit yourself. Anyway, I want to point out one thing to Justice Scalia and to everyone watching. In the Roe case that I wrote the majority opinion, I want everyone to remember 5 of the justices that that concurred with my opinion, 5 of them were Republicans appointed by Reagan, appointed by Eisenhower, and appointed by Nixon. So that they were conservative Republicans, and they believed in the fundamental right of women to privacy and to make decisions about their body. So that's changed dramatically, and it's going to change back.
Well, what's changed, Justice Blackmun, is the idea of what is conservative. I mean, conservatives are supposed, in your area, we're supposed to just respect the other side. And the idea of conservative anymore is just to crush all opposition.
But just to listen to you, the other side is white males. Respect. Don't respect women. Don't respect gays. Don't respect minorities. If I listen to you, I would only respect white males.
And Justice Scalia, it makes sense that you're speechless. I'm so happy. I am so happy to just find you in a situation whereby you find no answers, because you know you are an intelligent man. No matter what you spew and the hatred that you spew, you are an intelligent man, and you realize that there is fault in your logic, because on several occasions Justice Blackmun has displayed that. But it's all right. So perhaps Madame de Gouges' prayers did find a soul. Perhaps
I think his mind has been exhausted.
I admit that I can get pretty emotional in rendering a decision. I just have these deep beliefs that I know I've been brought up with to be true, and
but these are your personal, and that's just it. That's the whole point. That's what we've been talking about. These are your personal views. Madame de Gouges, I mean, do you have anything to say to Justice Scalia? Your prayers reached him, darling. Your prayers reached that soul that we didn't know existed.
I
guess God does listen to a hoe.
How dare you, Scalia? How dare you? What gives you the right to call me such a hideous name?
But you know why? Because when people run out of intellectual thought, they reduce themselves to like children throwing mud. That's what it is.
I would say this: after I heard her dissertation on the rights of women, I'm even more glad. I'm happier that I ruled the way I did in Roe, and the right of women to determine their own fate in their own body. So I want to thank the madam for that.
Thank you,
Well,
Mr.
And Madam, I think on behalf of all of the women activists that I know, that I've known over the years, to our dearly beloved Babette Josephs, it wherever she's sitting in heaven looking down and saying, good for you, girl, good for you.
I feel her. I feel her
You
spirit
feel her
behind me
presence.
cheering me.
So you just watched the final episode of No, You Don't Own My Body, which is a series that we did on Conversations Across Time because we wanted to address the issues that have cropped up as a result of the overturn of Roe v. Wade with the Dobbs decision, which was rendered by Justice Alito. Mark Hoffman joins in this conversation because Mark Hoffman is the Conversation Across Time show historian. He plays many roles, and in this series, he played Justice Blackmun. And Justice Blackmun, as you know, was the justice who wrote the opinion in Roe v. Wade. So what it brought to mind for us, and Mark, you can jump in at any time, what it brought in mind for us was the loss that we feel at Conversations Across Time with having lost our co-host, Babette Josephs, former Pennsylvania State Representative Babette Josephs. And Babby served for 14 terms. She served for 28 years in the Pennsylvania State Legislature. She represented Center City, South, and parts of South Philadelphia.
She was my representative.
I'm sorry?
She was my representative.
She was your representative. Yes. And
that's
so
ironic.
It is ironic because, Mark, when we came to this endeavor of Conversations Across Time, at some point, you'll see how Babette talks about me running into her as she's waiting at a bus stop, and it's just the way that she explained it is precisely what happened. She had just lost her seat after having served for 28 years. And she had so much to offer and so much to say. And I am so grateful that we had an opportunity to get her involved with Conversations Across Time. She was with us from the beginning. And as Mark was with us from the beginning, she meant a lot to us because Babette was a fierce warrior. She was quiet. She smiled, but man, was she tough.
Tough as nails. Tough as nails. And she believed in human rights globally. We did a show about water in Africa, and she was all over the fact that how the women were treated there. She was always critical of how the Muslims, especially in some of the strict Muslim countries, treated women. And she would have been all over Dobbs. She would have been the first one with a picket sign, even though she wasn't feeling well, going out there to defend women's rights. She was feisty, but quiet and bright as hell. And she relished the fight, and she didn't lose that many. She lost that one election, but she won a lot of elections. She was tough as nails.
And one of the things that I thought was interesting about Babette is way back before it was popular, Babette came out in favor of the rights of the LGBTQ population.
Yep.
She fought for them. She fought for the underprivileged. She fought because she could see what was going on. I said when Babette passed, I thought that perhaps she would have been heartbroken to see what has happened, but she was prescient. She knew what was coming. And through all of the years that she was with Conversations Across Time, she left office in 2012. We started Conversations Across Time in 2013. Babette was with us from the beginning, and she was always talking about these issues and making certain that we address them. Do you remember, Mark, the show that we did when she was speaking to Thomas Jefferson, President Jefferson, and
Right.
Sally Hemings and Josephine Baker? And she told Thomas Jefferson.
Right. She told them off. She would have told them off if she was around in 1776. She would have told them off in person. She pulled no punches.
Yes, she pulled no punches.
And the thing about Abet, though, with all her feistiness and with all her attempts to make things right for the underprivileged and minority communities, etc., and women, she was optimistic as much as anybody in the CAT team. She believed things would work out. She was a hard fighter, but she was an optimist. I used to, and I'm not, and I would drive her home from when we did some of the tapings, and we would talk, and I would be, Trump's going to do this, and we're going to be fascist. She says, the arc of history, we're going to win, Mark. She was way more optimistic than I was.
Yes. And as you said, some of the topics that she very much enjoyed discussing, climate change was one of her. She's talking about climate change. Well, what's 2022. Babette was talking about climate change in 2013.
Absolutely.
She was addressing it.
And when you talked about gay and lesbian and trans rights, we did a show with Roy Cohn, and she attacked him for being in the closet unmercifully. She attacked John Mason was playing Roy, but she attacked him unmercifully for being in the closet and attacking homosexuals in the McCarthy hearings, and not being even though he was gay himself. Yes,
and I'm thinking of there was someone else that she went after. I always went after John Foster Dulles. She always went after him.
Well, both you and her hated him.
Yeah. Well, for those folk that watch the show, they know that's just I have such disdain for John Foster Dulles, and Babette just came in, and she was someone who believed steadfastly in the rights of the underprivileged.
Absolutely.
She was passionate about the rights of women. She was passionate about what was happening to the vote, and she was certainly someone who could look at what was going on. And she gave us some background information, because having been in the state legislature for as long as she was, she would tell us stories that were just unbelievable about how the Republicans would put forth an agenda item, and they would give her a folder and a binder. And she'd open the binder, and there was nothing in it, because they were letting her know that they had run of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and what they intended to do was to use it for the benefit of the moneyed people. That was when we talk about voter participation. She introduced legislation. Was it 2013? I'm sorry, no, not 2013. I'm sorry, 2008. She introduced legislation in the Pennsylvania House that talked about people being able to vote by mail, that you didn't need an excuse. You just needed to be able to do that. It didn't get passed until 2019, but it got passed. And that was well after she had left the legislature, but her imprint was there. Babby was all over that.
The thing is, she understood how the legislature worked, and she saw the corruption, but she would not let the corruption tarnish her. So she would talk about, the deals and everything that the other people were making, but she never let it touch her, and she was straight as an arrow, and you don't find that too much in today's politics.
And I think one of the things that probably made us gel so well together, and that Mark, is because you, as a former history teacher, and Babette, yes, Babette was an attorney, but Babette had been a teacher before she was.
She was an English teacher, correct?
She was an English teacher.
Right.
And I before was a history teacher. So it is just, I can see how the whole format of Conversations Across Time actually gelled around our personalities as teachers, because it's our classroom. It's our opportunity to exchange, and not so much to teach, because what a teacher learns more from its students than he actually imparts to them. So it was an opportunity for us to just share information and have folk think about things in ways that they hadn't before. And wherever Babette is now, she is looking down at this Michigas and wondering to herself if we're going to keep the battle up, and we have to.
But she would be saying we're going to win. It might take a long time, but she would say she was always that way. She always thought that the arc of history was in favor of equal rights and, you know, women's rights and, you know, everybody and you know, people rising above, you know, and she was optimistic. So that I admire her for that.
And another thing that she did that I very much appreciated is we did several shows on the Middle East.
Yeah.
And Babette was very clear that there has to be a dialogue, that there has to be communication, that this is the only way that it's going. You know, one way doesn't get one position is not right. It has to be that it's people have to come together.
She always, and she was a strong supporter of Israel, but she always would say to me, she said, Mark, you know, you can criticize Israel without being anti-Semitic, and we have to make a deal there. And she would always say that.
Yes. There was another thing about Babette that I mean, she was a trooper that kept on working on the show even after she received a diagnosis, which
absolutely,
which was such courage.
I remember her coming and she had lost her hair because of chemo, and she didn't care. She went right on with what she was doing, and she thought it was important. It was really something. She was one strong woman.
Yes. And I look at what's going on now in Jackson, Mississippi with the water issue. Now, we know Babette would have been talking about that.
Well, we did a show on
fresh water.
Yeah.
Fresh water. Yes, that series on fresh water. I think the tragedy of it all was that folk like Babette were talking for years about these things. They could see it coming. It's a horrible thing to be able to know ahead of time what is coming and not be able to stop it. But damn it, if she wasn't out there fighting and trying. And she encouraged us to do that.
And one of the things she wanted more than anything else was to see a woman president. She was a strong supporter of Hillary.
Yes.
And everybody was upset on, you know, the show when Hillary lost. But I never saw anybody more despondent. She snapped right back out of it and was right back in the fight. But she was really, she knew what was coming with President Trump.
In fact, when he came down that escalator, we were taping. I think a couple days later, we were all together and we were taping. And she said, "This man is dangerous. Yeah. This man is dangerous." And we knew things were going to be bad, but we just had no idea how bad they could be. So I guess all of this is that we can have the opportunity to share with our audience our profound sense of loss for a voice like Babette, for her to not be around, but we intend to keep on fighting and keep on doing what we do, because we were charged to do that from the very beginning, and we won't lose faith and perhaps try to adopt some of her optimism.
Yes, I need a little bit of that. Yes.
So I guess this just gives us an opportunity to share with you, our audience, just just the zeal that we feel and the importance that we feel to keep on pressing forward and ever trying to use history to expose and explain what is going on in politics today, and let you know that we've lost a little part of our heart left in it was August 27th, 2021 is when she passed. It's been a year.
It's a little over a year, right?
Yeah. So Babette, you're looking down on us, and we're going to keep on. And these episodes that we just completed, No, You Don't Own My Body, that's a tribute to you, girlfriend. That's a tribute to you, because we miss you.
Absolutely. Rest in peace, Bab.
So here I am, waiting for a bus on a street corner when my friend Vivian drives by in a car and says, Babette, I want you. I need you. So I thought, sure. And I had a card with me, my business card. I gave it to her, and I thought, I probably won't hear from Vivian again for a while. But right away, she emailed me, she called me, and now I'm doing her concept, which is really, really interesting, to make history alive and to relate it to what's happening now in our country and our world. Was there a revolution? Did people stop going to work? Did companies go down? Did civilization end as we know it because the Social Security bill passed?
No.
No?
Not at all.
No.
No.
Is
no,
any of that
no.
going to happen because the Affordable Health Care Act passed? No.
Some things about this I know strike you, Babette. First of all, that Churchill, like you and I, more interested in social programs.
I never knew that. I think that's very interesting. But he concluded, and I guess history tells us that he was right, that war was inevitable because war happened.
Yes.
But it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that economic superiority had to do with what went on in the Middle East and other places, and is still going on.
Exactly.
Oil is still essential to us. Oil is still a fuel, even though we try to wean ourselves from it in feeble little ways. We need it, and there's vast reserves in the Middle East, and until we either wean ourselves or we run out of oil or some terrible catastrophe happens, we will continue to have this conflict, I think.
The answer is very obvious. It's an obvious choice. It's a no-brainer.
Well, we drove you. The United States drove you, in my opinion, into the arms of at the time, the USSR. It's not surprising to me. Where else were you supposed to go? And have looked recently at the treaty, and the first whole part of it is about that. But what I don't understand is, in this compromise, you seem to think there could be
Conversations across time, 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 conversations.